Hello, welcome to Perspectives 33B, different takes on the same matter. How does a recruiter actually select and greenlight a perfect candidate for a strategic planning role? To get the high level of this response, we have three different examples here joining us today by a partner at a top-tier management consultancy firm. He's got the pedigree to match. An MBA from Wharton University of Pennsylvania, and specialized expertise in planning, people, entrepreneurship, and digital transformation. Beyond his day job, he sits on multiple corporate committees and brings 15 years of experience in strategic planning, having worked both in-house and on the consultancy side. So let's dive in. How do you choose the right person to map out a company's future? Or better saying, how do you pick someone for a strategic planning role? First off, it's a pleasure to be here. Let's get to the first example of answer. We're going to call it the corporate standard response. A solid candidate for strategic planning isn't usually the one trying to be the star of the show. They're the person who walks into a room, reads the vibe, figures out the dynamics, and then decides exactly how to play it. They're incredibly organized, the kind of person who plans their vacation months in advance, mapping out different scenarios with a solid plan B for everything. To thrive in strategy, you have to live in the future, constantly building frameworks and action plans for what-if situations. You need to look like you're always prepared for anything, and that's because you actually are. You've already done the mental legwork. In strategic planning, impulsiveness is a deal breaker. You need deep technical chops, a mastery of frameworks, and a genuine love for learning. You're always scouting out for trends and new methodologies to stay ahead of the curve. Your analytical skills have to be top-notch to judge all that data at once, but you also need the discipline to prioritize, let me say again, to prioritize so you don't get lost in the weeds. The real skill is turning those deep dives into clear recommendations. Your opinions have to be rock solid and well supported. You've got to be someone who finds satisfaction in the work itself, not in chasing headlines. And since you're often the one supporting major decisions, you have to be a clear communicator who can take complex data and make it simple and actionable for everyone else. When it comes to research, there's no room for laziness in strategic planning. You need to be MECE, M-E-C-E, collecting every possible scrap out of info from primary and secondary sources, weeding out the contradictions, and separating the wheat from the chaff. You don't say in strategic planning, oh, I saw this on Wikipedia. You cite reliable sources that base your analysis and recommendations. You're always tuned into what's happening both outside and inside the company, bridging those two worlds to find the best path forward. What's the second example of answer to your question about strategic planning, the perfect candidate? Let's call it the sincere response. Look, to be totally honest and sincere, you've got to be a pro at mapping out future scenarios and building game plans for every possible outcome. It's not about being a tight ass or stiff. It's about being calculated and risk-averse. To minimize those risks, you imagine every angle and plan accordingly. You might not necessarily be the boots-on-the-ground doer with a frantic sense of urgency, but you're the one who obsesses over the details. The second someone suggests an idea, your brain is already figuring out the best way to pull it off. You need an incredible organized headspace. You've got to know how to prioritize and accept that every yes to one strategy is a no to a dozen others. It's all about the trade-offs. Honestly, in strategic planning, you're probably the kind of person who keeps their drawers and closets perfectly color-coded and organized. Okay, what would be the third example of answer to your question about the ideal strategic planning candidate? Let's call it the ideal world response. In an ideal world, the ideal strategic planning candidate would actually be everyone. Everyone should have the capacity, to some level of degree, to plan their own moves and weigh their decisions. It's about actually carving out the time to sit back and reflect on what you're doing and the ripple effects it'll have. It goes back to the old saying, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen more, talk less. Really think and consider more. What will your actions produce? What are the impacts? Does staying that self-aware take effort? Of course it does. But in an ideal world, there's no room for laziness. Think about it. Okay, today we saw 3 types of different responses for the same question. Remember, there are no absolute truths, and people may have different points of view from yours. Always consider that they may exist alternative takes on the same matter. This will hopefully help you navigate more open-mindedly through life. Knowledge always makes us grow. We never should stop learning. Think about it.